Most people chasing firmer skin are spending money on supplements and skipping right past the foods that do the same job. 16 of them. Real research behind everyone. Number 3 has been sitting in your crisper drawer the whole time. Cup for cup, more vitamin C than orange juice. Collagen cannot be built without it. Number 11 is a special occasion food most people never think about otherwise. Research links low intake of the mineral it carries directly to slowed collagen and delayed wound healing. Number 9 went head-to-head against a hormone cream in a randomized trial. Measured directly, held its own. It's a bean most people only eat at a restaurant. Number 12, cooked not raw, raised pro-collagen in skin after 12 weeks. Researchers confirmed it with biopsies. Most people eat it every week without knowing. There's one on this list most people think is doing more than it is. Tested against a collagen supplement in a lab. The gap was significant. Full story inside. 16 foods. Real evidence behind everyone. Most people eat almost none of them with this in mind. Not because they're hard to find. Because nobody laid it out plainly. Number 14 is a food most people think of as a treat. A 12-week study measured what it did to skin density and blood flow to skin tissue. The results were real and published. Most people have no idea. Number 10 is a nut most people avoid. It carries the mineral that welds collagen strands together once they're built. Without it, the structure stays loose. I spent 20 years as a registered nurse. Food almost never came up in a conversation about healing skin. That gap is part of why this channel exists. Nothing here replaces your doctor. I'm retired from nursing, not from telling the truth. What follows is what the research says. In kitchen language, let's start with the one already in your kitchen. Most people reach for it without a second thought. Almost nobody knows it's doing this job. Red bell peppers, sitting right there in the crisper drawer of nearly every kitchen in this country. Most people reach for them for color on a plate, maybe a little crunch, and give it no further thought. Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body, in your skin, your joints, your blood vessels, your gut lining. The body replaces and rebuilds it constantly. Run short on one input and the whole process slows down. Everything on this list feeds that same production line, just from a different direction. Cup for cup, a red bell pepper carries more vitamin C than an orange. Most folks find that hard to believe the first time they hear it. I did too, years back. Standing right there in my own kitchen, down inside your skin cells, there's a little construction crew whose whole job is twisting 3 protein strands into the tight rope-like braid we call collagen. That crew cannot finish without vitamin C handing over the exact tool needed to lock each twist in place. Researchers showed this directly, growing human skin cells in a dish and watching collagen output rise and fall with vitamin C levels. Without it, the braid comes out loose, weak, like a knot tied without the final tuck. A lot of people assume that because peppers taste mild, almost sweet in the red ones, they must be nutritionally unremarkable next to something sharp and citrusy, like a lemon. That assumption gets it backwards more often than not. Sweetness and nutrient density aren't opposites, whatever the old thinking suggested. Eat them raw off the cutting board. You keep far more vitamin C than if you cook them down. Studies suggest steady, regular intake matters more than any single large dose. I grow 3 colors out back, and the red ones are always the last ones ready. Patience pays. Red bell peppers also pair remarkably well with dark leafy greens on the same plate. Vitamin C from the pepper actively helps the body absorb the iron in the greens. 2 items from this list working together on a single fork. That kind of stacking is worth building into your regular cooking without overthinking it. One more thing worth knowing here. Red bell peppers also carry beta-carotene alongside that vitamin C, 2 separate collagen-supporting nutrients in a single vegetable. The orange and yellow varieties carry different amounts of each. Rotating through all 3 colors over a week covers more ground than sticking to just one. The green ones are picked early, same plant, same vine, but the red version that sat longer carries more than twice the vitamin C. That's the difference ripeness makes, and it's worth knowing before you grab whatever's cheapest. So next time you're reaching for the bag of mixed peppers, reach for the red. Same price, same shelf, different nutritional picture entirely. Citrus, oranges, lemons, the whole wide family of them. This one's not exactly a surprise entry on a list like this, and it doesn't need to be. Sometimes the obvious answer earns its place on the list precisely because it happens to be true, plain and simple. Sailors figured this out the hard way, centuries before anyone named vitamin C. Go without it long enough and collagen stops holding together. Gums bled, old wounds reopened. It could happen in weeks at sea, not years. That's how tight the connection really is. Vitamin C finishes and locks the collagen braid once it's built. Skip it, and the body still tries. It just can't seal the job. Research going back decades, confirmed again in fibroblast lab work, points to the same mechanism every single time. That kind of consistency across that many years is rare. This isn't about mega dosing. It's about not running low. A glass of juice, a squeeze of lemon over your greens, that steady baseline is what the research supports, far more than any single large dose. Simple. The honest answers usually are, lemon zest holds vitamin C too, and it goes into a sauce or a bowl of oats without anyone noticing. Small habit. Adds up over a week. And if you're storing cut citrus, the vitamin C in the juice starts degrading the moment it's exposed to air. Drink it fresh, or squeeze it onto food right before you eat. That detail makes a real difference. Kiwi, guava, and papaya carry vitamin C concentrations that rival or exceed citrus, worth rotating through them if you want variety without losing the benefit. Vitamin C from whole food sources absorbs well, and excess is excreted rather than stored, which makes toxicity from food essentially impossible under normal circumstances. That's a useful contrast with fat-soluble vitamins, where the body does accumulate excess. Eat generously from this category without concern. The upper tolerable limit from supplements is around 2,000 milligrams daily, a figure essentially unreachable from food alone, which is a reassuring piece of context worth holding on to. A note on cooking and vitamin C in general. Heat, water, and air are its three enemies. Roasting or steaming rather than boiling, and adding lemon or citrus at the end of cooking rather than the start are the two habits that preserve the most. Neither requires any extra effort once they're set. Now the broth. I've made it for years. My own mother made it before me. I'm not telling you to stop, but I do want to give you the full picture, not just the pleasant half. In 2019, researchers measured the amino acids in properly made bone broth and compared them directly against a standard collagen supplement dose. The broth came in noticeably lower in glycine, in proline, and inconsistent batch to batch. 2 pots from the same recipe on 2 different days came back with different numbers. Broth isn't worthless. It just can't do the job alone. A separate study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that pairing a gelatin source with vitamin C together before activity measurably increased collagen production. That pairing is the real finding here. So here's what I do. A mug of broth with a good squeeze of lemon stirred in, or a glass of orange juice alongside it. Not because it sounds nice, because that's what the research actually points toward. The timing matters in the original study. The gelatin and vitamin C were taken before activity, not hours after. If you're recovering from exercise or a long day on your feet, that's when the pairing is most relevant. Broth made longer, with more connective tissue in the pot, feet, knuckles, necks, tends to yield more of those building blocks. Method and ingredients matter more than simmering time alone. Strawberries. Sweet, easy to love. And most people stop the thinking right there. But they're quietly carrying 2 entirely separate things working on your skin at once. First, they're a solid source of vitamin C, comparable to citrus and occasionally rivaling it depending on ripeness. Second, the compounds behind that deep red color act like a shield, slowing the everyday internal rust that breaks collagen fibers down before you ever notice it happening. 2 jobs. 1 berry. There's research looking specifically at these color compounds and their ability to blunt sun-related damage to skin-supporting fibers, findings that most sunscreen advertisements never think to mention on the bottle, understandably enough, since it's not exactly their department. I grow a small patch along the fence. More birds get to them than I do most seasons. A handful a few times a week is enough. Frozen ones work just as well, which makes this a year-round option even when the garden's asleep. Other berries carry those same color compounds: blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Any of them work. You don't have to wait for strawberry season to rotate through this particular benefit. A handful stirred into oatmeal or laid over yogurt, that's the whole ask here. No recipe required. The color compounds in berries, anthocyanins, cycle out of the body relatively fast. That's actually an argument for eating them most days rather than once a week in a large amount. Consistent daily exposure keeps levels steadier than an occasional large dose. Kale, spinach. Most people eat them out of obligation. Here's an actual reason to want them on the plate. Raw kale carries more vitamin C than most fruits people reach for first. Ounce for ounce. That surprises people every time they see it. Remarkable for something so plain looking in the produce aisle. One safety note worth knowing: leafy greens are high in vitamin K, which interacts directly with blood-thinning medications like warfarin. If you're on a blood thinner, this isn't a reason to avoid greens, but do talk with your doctor about keeping your intake consistent week to week rather than swinging. That's a conversation worth having. Lightly steamed or wilted, greens hold onto far more vitamin C than boiled. A quick wilt, a squeeze of lemon after, both halves of this equation on one plate. 2 minutes. No extra cost. That combination alone covers the single most important collagen nutrient, delivered twice over. If you're going raw, kale in a salad, a little massage with olive oil for a few minutes breaks the leaves down and makes the nutrients easier to absorb. Small technique, real difference. Spinach wilts to almost nothing in a pan. A bag that looks enormous raw becomes 2 servings cooked. That's worth knowing when you're deciding how much to buy. Arugula, watercress, and chard all carry vitamin C and work the same way here. If kale or spinach isn't something you enjoy, any of them is a reasonable rotation. The goal is a serving of dark leafy greens most days. The specific variety matters far less than the consistency. Garlic. Every kitchen has some. Most people see nothing beyond flavor. There's a good deal more going on in that little papery bulb than most folks ever stop to consider. Garlic is rich in sulfur compounds, building blocks your body draws on to support and stabilize collagen fibers once they're already in place. Less like the bricklayer, more like the crew holding the scaffolding steady while the bricklayer works. Traditional use for wound care and tissue repair stretches back centuries, across cultures that had no contact with each other. The modern research on the mechanism is still preliminary, and that's worth saying plainly. But independent repeated use across that much history tends to mean something real is underneath it. I braid mine and hang it in the shed every year, the way my grandmother did. Or maybe it was her sister. I honestly don't recall anymore. Either way, the lesson stuck. Cheap, simple, keeps half a year without any trouble. Raw garlic tends to retain more of those sulfur compounds than heavily cooked garlic. Chopping or crushing before cooking is the standard way to use it, and letting it rest a few minutes after chopping before adding heat is a simple habit worth keeping. A clove a day in your food is about where traditional use has always landed. No supplementing, no capsules. Just ordinary garlic, consistently, over time. Black garlic, regular garlic that's been slowly fermented, carries a higher concentration of some of those compounds and a sweeter, milder flavor. Worth trying if raw garlic's sharpness is a barrier. Wild salmon. This one works a bit differently than most of the others on today's list, and it's genuinely worth slowing down on for a moment before we move ahead. 2 separate mechanisms, both headed toward the same outcome, which is fairly unusual for a single food. Salmon carries omega-3 fats that help calm the low-grade irritation quietly chipping away at collagen year by year, a slow leak you'd never notice day to day, but real damage over time. Beyond that, the skin of the fish itself contains marine collagen and related proteins. Most people peel it off and throw it away. That's the best part. A fish built to push upstream its whole life, offering up the exact material your own body needs to hold itself together. That kind of design doesn't feel like an accident to me. You don't need this one every single day of the week to see the benefit. Twice a week, with the skin left on and crisped up properly in the pan rather than peeled off and tossed in the trash, is genuinely where the research keeps landing consistently. Most people throw away the very best part of the fish without ever once knowing what they were giving up. Wild-caught and farm differ in their omega-3 content. Wild tends to run higher, though both carry it. If wild is out of budget, farmed salmon still delivers meaningfully more of these fats than most other common proteins. Sardines carry the same omega-3 fats and the same structural proteins, often higher per ounce, at a fraction of the cost. Worth keeping a can in the pantry if salmon's not on the regular shopping list. Mackerel and herrings are in the same family. Fatty, affordable, underused. Any of the three gives you the same dual benefit. The skin-on canned varieties deliver that marine collagen right along with the fish. One thing I noticed after leaving the hospital and paying real attention to food, patients who healed fastest tended to eat more fish than average, without anyone telling them to. I didn't connect it at the time. Looking back now, with what I've since read, it fits. Avocado. Most people have heard it's good for them in some vague sense without ever being told the specific reason. Here's the specific reason. Avocados are one of the richest grocery store sources of vitamin E, and vitamin E protects the outer membrane of the cells that actually produce collagen. A damaged membrane means less collagen output. It really is that direct, from the fat on your fork to the cell doing the building. The fat also helps absorb other nutrients on the same plate, a quiet team player. Slice some over a salad with tomatoes and leafy greens, and you've stacked several things from this list into one bowl without overthinking it. Half an avocado, on most days, is plenty for what we're after here. This isn't a food where more is automatically better, not with the calorie count it carries. Steady and moderate, the way most genuinely good things in a well-tended garden tend to work out best over the long run, rather than the all-or-nothing approach so many people bring to a new food the moment they hear it's good for them. The vitamin E in avocado is fat-soluble, meaning it stores in the body between doses. You don't need it at every single meal to keep levels steady. A few times a week adds up to real, consistent support. Keep them on the counter until they give slightly under gentle pressure, then move them to the fridge to slow ripening. That window between unripe and overripe is short, but manageable once you know to watch for it. Vitamin E is also found in sunflower seeds, almonds, and wheat germ. Useful to know if avocados aren't in budget every week. The goal is keeping that protective layer around collagen-producing cells consistently topped up. Soybeans, edamame, tofu, the whole extended family of them. This is the one I mentioned right at the very start of this video, and I'll tell you now, in full and plainly, exactly what that clinical trial actually found, without dressing it up any more than it deserves. Soy carries a compound called genistein. In a randomized double-blind trial, researchers applied it to postmenopausal facial skin and compared it directly against a topical estrogen cream. The genistein group showed measurable collagen increases, held its own against an actual hormone treatment. Separate research, a 6-month randomized trial, found that oral soy reduced wrinkle severity and raised skin hydration compared to placebo, measured with the same photography equipment at every check-in. Important safety note. If you're being treated for a hormone-sensitive condition, or you're on tamoxifen, soy's estrogen-like activity is something to discuss with your oncologist before increasing your intake. Don't add it quietly in that situation. For most everyone else, though, whole soy foods eaten in ordinary amounts carry a long, well-documented safety record stretching back generations across entire cultures that have relied on it as a daily staple. It's really only that specific hormone therapy situation where a real conversation with your doctor first genuinely matters. Edamame, tofu, tempeh, miso all deliver genistein in different concentrations. Fermented forms like miso and tempeh contain isoflavones in a form that may be more readily absorbed by the body. Worth knowing if you're trying to maximize what your body actually absorbs. A serving of edamame as an afternoon snack or tofu worked into a stir-fry a few nights a week. That's the practical version of what the research was studying. Nothing more complicated than ordinary cooking. Tempeh has a firmer texture than tofu and works well sliced thin and pan-fried. For people who haven't found a soy preparation they enjoy, tempeh is often the one that finally sticks. Miso soup is one of the simplest ways to add fermented soy to the routine without any real cooking. A spoonful of miso paste in hot water with a little seaweed is 3 minutes from bowl to table and covers this particular base entirely. I keep it on the shelf year-round. Cashews. People tend to avoid them out of worry over the fat content, counting calories in their head before the handful even reaches their mouth. And in doing that, they're walking right past a mineral their skin genuinely, specifically needs to do its work. The fat in cashews is largely the same kind found in olive oil. For what it's worth, that particular worry has never been well supported by the research. Cashews are one of the better food sources of copper, and copper does a job nothing else on this list does. It activates the worker responsible for cross-linking collagen fibers once they're built, welding the strands into a stable mesh. Research in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition traced this mechanism step by step. Without enough copper on hand, collagen still gets made well enough, but it stays looser, understructured, considerably less able to hold its shape properly over the passing years. It's a bit like framing a house and never quite getting around to the final bolts that hold the frame rigid under real weight. A small handful, a few times through the week, is genuinely all this particular food calls for. Nothing more elaborate than that. Copper is one of those minerals where the body needs only a modest, steady amount to function properly, and cashews deliver exactly that without any fuss or complication at all. Sunflower seeds and sesame seeds also carry copper in useful amounts, easier to add into baking or onto salads without anyone noticing they're there. Cashews, raw versus roasted, both deliver the copper. The difference is in the fat, which is minimal either way. Buy what you'll actually eat, because consistency matters more than form. Sesame tahini carries copper in useful amounts and works in dressings, dips, or stirred into oatmeal. Another way to cover this mineral on days when nuts aren't on the menu. Liver, if it's something you eat, carries copper in concentrations that dwarf almost any other food. Even a small amount, 2 ounces once a week, covers the copper requirement comfortably. Most people don't eat it, which is part of why cashews and seeds are the more practical answer for most kitchens. Oysters, the one I teased at the very start of this video. Most folks think of them purely as a special occasion food, save for anniversaries and celebrations, and never once connect them to ordinary daily skin health sitting on a regular Tuesday plate. Zinc is also involved in the production and regulation of over 200 different processes in the body, many of them tied directly to tissue maintenance and repair. The collagen connection is real, but it's sitting inside a much larger picture of what this one mineral is quietly managing every single day. Oysters are the richest natural source of zinc of almost any food. Zinc deficiency has been directly shown in controlled research to slow collagen production and delay wound healing. The journal Wound Repair and Regeneration reviewed the evidence across decades, from animal work through to clinical patients. This mineral simply doesn't get talked about nearly as often as vitamin C does in most conversations about skin, but the evidence sitting behind it is every bit as solid, arguably even more consistent across the decades of research behind it. If you're already taking a zinc supplement, mention it to your doctor before adding a lot more zinc-rich food. Too much zinc can interfere with copper absorption, the mineral we just covered. Balance is the actual lesson here, in every direction. Fresh oysters are expensive. Canned oysters carry the same zinc and cost considerably less. A can stirred into a pasta or a chowder once a week delivers what you're looking for without the restaurant bill. Pumpkin seeds are the plant-based option for zinc, not as concentrated as oysters, but a useful addition for those who don't eat shellfish. A handful on a salad or in granola does it. Beef and lamb also carry meaningful zinc, closer in concentration to shellfish than most plant sources. A few ounces a couple of times a week puts you well within range. For people who eat red meat, the zinc in beef and lamb is in a form the body absorbs more efficiently than the zinc in plant sources. That's a useful distinction when planning around specific health goals. It means smaller portions of animal sources cover the same ground as much larger portions of plant ones. Tomatoes, a garden favorite, a sauce staple, and most people have no idea what the cooked version is quietly doing for their skin. I grow half a dozen varieties along the south fence. This finding changed how I think about the ones that go into the pot. Tomatoes carry lycopene, the compound behind that deep red. A randomized controlled trial in the British Journal of Dermatology had women eat tomato paste daily for 12 weeks. Their skin showed reduced sun-related collagen breakdown and higher levels of new collagen forming. Compared to the control group, the researchers took actual skin biopsies before and after. They didn't just ask how people felt. That's part of why this study carries real weight. Cooked tomato, specifically, matters a great deal here, more than people generally assume. The lycopene becomes far easier for your body to actually absorb and use once the tomato's been properly heated and broken down through cooking, which runs directly opposite to what most people assume about cooked vegetables losing value compared to raw ones. So a good tomato sauce, simmered low and slow, with a little olive oil stirred in to help your body absorb the lycopene properly, isn't merely a comfort food sitting on the stove for the sake of nostalgia. Research suggests it's doing real, measurable work the entire time it sits there, being delicious, which is about as pleasant a piece of nutrition news as you're likely to hear all week. Tomato paste is more concentrated than crushed tomatoes or canned whole tomatoes. A tablespoon or two stirred into a soup or stew delivers a meaningful lycopene dose without changing the dish much. The olive oil pairing matters more than most people realize. Lycopene is fat-soluble, without some fat alongside it. Much of what you eat passes through without being absorbed. Traditional Italian cooking had this right for centuries before anyone ran the numbers on why. Watermelon carries lycopene in similar concentrations to raw tomatoes. And unlike tomatoes, it doesn't need cooking to be useful. A slice on a hot afternoon covers this particular base without any effort at all. Pink grapefruit and guava carry lycopene too, which most people don't know. If tomatoes aren't something you cook with regularly, either of those delivers the same compound through entirely different eating occasions. The body doesn't care which one. It just wants a consistent supply of something in that category. Green tea, quietly doing its work every time somebody sits down with a cup and doesn't think twice about it. Most people treat it as a comfort ritual. The research says it's doing something more than that. Green tea is rich in EGCG. A review in the journal Nutrients found it measurably reduces the compounds that break collagen down after sun exposure, while supporting the fibers already in place. Animal work in the same review showed higher collagen density markers in those given the compounds regularly. It doesn't build new collagen the way vitamin C does, and that's worth saying plainly. It protects what's already there. Over enough years, that matters just as much. Preservation and construction are different jobs. This list needs both. 2 or 3 cups, steeped a full few minutes. That's where the research lands. Matcha delivers more of the same compounds with fewer cups, if that works better. Either way, it's on my morning shelf. Low effort, quiet payoff over time. GCG is sensitive to water temperature. Boiling water can degrade it. Steep green tea at around 175 degrees Fahrenheit, not a full rolling boil. Most electric kettles have a setting for it now. Worth the small adjustment. Loose leaf tends to deliver more of these compounds than tea bag versions, simply because you're working with more surface area and better leaf quality. Not by a dramatic margin, but the difference is real and the cost is modest. Cold brewed green tea is worth mentioning here. Steeping overnight in cold water extracts EGCG with less bitterness. Some research suggests compound stability may be slightly better at lower temperatures, though the evidence is mixed. Fill a jar before bed, it's ready in the morning. No active effort required. Dark chocolate. I can already picture a few of you sitting up a little straighter in your chair at the mere mention of this one, and I don't blame you one bit. A study in the Journal of Nutrition had women drink a high flavanol cocoa beverage daily for 12 weeks. Compared to a low flavanol group, their skin showed reduced sun-related redness, higher skin density, and better blood flow to skin tissue. More blood flow means more oxygen reaching the cells doing the collagen building. A small square most evenings is a regular dose of plant compounds your skin's support system can genuinely put to good use, if it's the right kind of chocolate. The research specifically used real, substantial cocoa content, not the heavily sugared versions lining most ordinary store shelves near the checkout. Look for a genuinely high percentage of actual cocoa on the label, and a small square most evenings is plenty to work with. Rich, simple, real. In every sense of that word, 70% cocoa or higher is the general benchmark. The flavor becomes more bitter as the percentage climbs. 85% is where most people find the outer edge of enjoyable. Find your threshold and stay there consistently. Unsweetened cocoa powder stirred into hot water or oat milk carries the same flavonols in a different form, less saturated fat, more flexibility. A tablespoon in the morning works too. Egg whites. Overlooked more often than not, mostly because people separate them out for a particular baking recipe and toss the rest of the thinking aside right along with the yolk without a second glance, never once wondering what that clear, plain-looking liquid was actually carrying. Egg whites are unusually rich in proline, one of the 2 or 3 building blocks that make up the bulk of collagen's actual structure. Your body makes some proline on its own, but research indicates that during active repair, injury, surgery, ordinary wear over the years, production can't keep pace with demand. Food becomes the real difference maker in exactly those particular stretches of time, filling the gap the body's own factory can't quite close on its own when demand outpaces supply. A simple omelet, whole eggs, no need to waste the yolk, gives you proline for the structure and fair nutrition besides. Nothing complicated. Sometimes the plainest food on the list does the heaviest lifting. Other good proline sources include chicken skin and pork skin, both underutilized, both inexpensive. If bone broth is in your routine, adding feet or knuckles to the pot raises the proline content significantly compared to just bones. Gelatin carries an unusually high proline concentration compared to most whole foods, and it dissolves into coffee, tea, or any warm liquid without changing the flavor. Worth keeping on the shelf if tissue repair is the goal. Worth saying plainly, the research on dietary collagen precursors is still developing. What food does is keep the supply chain for that building work consistently stocked. It's not a replacement for a targeted supplement if your doctor recommends one, but it's the foundation everything else is built on. Sweet potatoes. Our last one for today, and it circles back rather nicely to right where a good deal of this all started, out in the dirt, hands in the soil. The kind of food that's been feeding people through hard winters for generations, without anyone needing a nutrition label to know it was worth keeping. Simple food, long track record, and research that holds up when you go looking for it. Sweet potatoes are rich in beta-carotene, which converts to vitamin A. Vitamin A keeps the skin's outer layers renewing at a healthy pace while supporting the deeper structure where collagen does its daily work. That renewal process is more important than most people realize. Skin that turns over slowly accumulates damaged, worn cells at the surface, which is part of what makes the skin look dull and less firm over time, independent of collagen production itself. Getting vitamin A from food consistently supports both ends of that equation at once. Sweet potatoes do that quietly every time they're on the plate. Skin renewing at a healthy pace shows newer, better supported collagen near the surface rather than worn tissue stacked on top, hiding the newer work underneath. I remember pulling these from the ground as a girl. My grandmother's garden, or maybe an aunt's. Those seasons run together on me now. Roasted, skin on, is still how I eat them most nights. Some childhood habits turn out to have good reasons behind them. Takes 50 years to learn what they are. The deeper the orange color inside, the more beta-carotene. Garnet and jewel varieties run darkest. Worth reaching for those over the paler ones when you have the choice. Beta-carotene is fat-soluble. A drizzle of olive oil or a pat of butter alongside it helps your body actually absorb what's there. The way it's been eaten for generations, as it turns out, was already the right way. Carrots carry beta-carotene too, and cooked carrots deliver more of it than raw. For the same reason, cooked tomatoes outperform raw for lycopene. A little heat, a little fat, and your body actually gets what the food is offering. Now, 16 foods. Real research behind every one. No supplement bottle required. That broth from the start of this video. Keep making it if you love it. Just pair it with what actually works alongside it, and let the rest of this list fill in around it. The work isn't dramatic. It's consistent. That's how it's always been with the kitchen. And that's how it works here too. Small choices, made regularly, over enough time. That's the whole method. And honestly, it always has been. The creator built a remarkable amount of quiet repair right into ordinary food long before any of us had a laboratory to prove it. I don't take that lightly sitting out here among these beds. a quiet kind of generosity, hiding in plain sight at the ordinary grocery store, available to everyone, no prescription needed. I'll say this honestly, I didn't grow up thinking about any of this. I grew up eating what was put in front of me, the same food my grandmother grew, and I was healthy for it without knowing why. Coming around to understanding why, decades later, has been one of the genuine pleasures of this whole second chapter. These aren't new foods. They're not exotic, not expensive, not hard to find. They're just finely understood ones. And that, to me, is the most reassuring piece of nutrition news there is, that the answers were sitting in ordinary kitchens the whole time. Nothing here replaces your doctor. If you're on blood thinners, managing a health condition, or in hormone-related treatment, bring these foods up with your physician before making any big changes. Bring a printed list to that appointment if it helps. If this kind of plain, evidence-based kitchen table look at food is genuinely useful to you, I'd be grateful if you'd hit that subscribe button down below. There's a good deal more of this coming, week after week, and I'd love to have you along for it. So here's my garden fence question. Of these 16, which one is already in your kitchen right now, unnoticed, and which one are you putting on your plate tonight? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. Until next time, take care of that garden. Take care of that body the Lord gave you to tend. May you be blessed.